This is our monthly builders call. This is for anyone who's building an organization within EXP or who is wanting to build an organization within EXP. It's a place to come to get questions answered, get support in growing and building, a place for collaboration and troubleshooting different situations that you might be in. And anyone that is part of your groups or your organization that's wanting to grow, we invite you to plug them into the larger community here to be part of that larger conversation and make sure that there's an awareness and ideally a use of the tools and resources that are available to support. So as we kick off today's call, I would like to just ask one thing. Yes, Melody?
So you're saying this isn't just for your front line, we can invite people in our group to participate in this?
Yes, anyone in your organizations, this is who this is for that wants to grow and build.
Awesome.
Yeah, so there's what I'm going to have each of you do is just grab something to write on, something to write with. And I'm going to have you make a couple of notes right now of what you want to walk away from today's call with. So if you think about everything that's working really well for you right now in this context of growing and building an organization, or things perhaps that you want to improve in that regard, what would those things be? Sometimes when we take a moment to write things down, there's an acknowledgement of progress that we've actually made, because as you continue to grow, the
oh really?
The only thing that's so
Ralph, I'm muting Ralph. There we go. As we continue to grow, we have different sets of challenges and obstacles that come up. So at every layer of progression, there's a new set of challenges and obstacles that arise. And so sometimes when you take a moment to just kind of look at where you're at and what you're looking for right now out of today's call, there can be an awareness that happens of, wow, you know what? I used to have XYZ that I was, having to struggle with, and now my business has progressed, my organization's grown, and that's no longer that same struggle. And now here's where the opportunity or the challenges that is in front of me. All right, so as you get clear on what that is, please put those items in the chat, because we'll in part utilize that as our conversation today. And to kick off our conversation for today, before we jump into any of those agenda items, I really want to have a conversation around events and some key things around them. I know we've got Leo on the call, so Leo, not right this minute. However, in a moment, I'm going to highlight you so that you can discuss and make sure and promote the upcoming event this week in Southern California. However, here's what I want to say is that we were on the road and we did a 2-week tour where we were doing different events. And we did 8 events over the course of 2 weeks. And during that time, we had, there's the experience of showing up to do an event that is investing in the existing agents that are already with the company. However, there's a big piece around events also, which is the opportunity to have people that are not with our company exposed to the kind of people that are with our company and what that can mean. And there's somebody specifically that I want to highlight. Hold on one second. There's somebody attempting to get on the call that's blowing up my phone.
Good morning.
With the link. Okay. So there's somebody specifically that I want to highlight, and that is Melody. So Melody Russell, for those of you that don't know her, she's an incredible agent. She's one of the top selling agents in the Santa Cruz market. And last week she hosted an event that was a listing clinic, essentially, that was a listing panel. And then on the back end of that, we did the EXP explained in the context of Rick's story, our story. Some of you have seen that. And so it was 2 days before the event, and Melody reached out via text message. Now, for those of you that have put on events or are going to put on events in the future, this is really important. It's 2 days before the event, and Melody texts and she goes, we have 35 people confirmed. And what do I do to get more people to the event? So this is 48 hours before the event. How many people actually attended the event?
72.
72 people attended the event 48 hours later. Melody is an amazing example of commitment. She got on the phone and started making outbound calls to invite people to the event. Now, a lot of times when we do events, it's like, oh, well, let's let social media do the work for us. I'm just going to throw some stuff up on my stories or, on social. I sent out emails. I sent out multiple emails. And the truth is, in this principle is so key, because while a message can go to the masses in forms of digital communication, nothing replaces one-on-one connection, period, at all. Right? So Melody literally gets on the phone and starts smiling and dialing to go from 35 people attending confirmed, not attending, 35 people confirmed, to having 72 butts and seats 48 hours later, by being willing to pick up the phone and do that. So how many people were at that event that, maybe didn't come at the last minute? Who knows how many of those actually were or could have been. However, I think it's such a great thing because it highlights the importance and the significance of the person-to-person contact, the outbound calls, the invitations, and making those invitations and the impact that that can have when we do that. And I think that it's really easy to look at people that have grown big organizations, and many of the people that have grown big organizations also have a big social media presence.
You're gonna get off of here now?
And rely on just that. However, again, that's the passive part of the business. The active part is the picking up the phone. It's the contact that we make. It's the outbound reach. It's the outbound touch. So Melody, I want to acknowledge you for for your commitment, first of all, for an incredibly executed, event, and reaching out and asking for support, right? So Melody very easily could have gone, oh, well, I'm having this event. There's 35 people. That's great. We have 35 people, and throw up some more posts, send a few more emails, and maybe get to 37, 38 and call it a day, have a couple of guests in the room and go, great, Rick and Casey came into town and we had an event. But her commitment is to grow and to build. And so she realizing like, hey, this is not where I saw or envisioned the event being. Boots on ground, pick up the phone and do the work. And so that is how people build massive organizations, because what that is a demonstration of is a commitment to an outcome, doing whatever it takes to create that outcome. And quite often the things of what it takes are the things that are not comfortable to do. So Melody, I know I didn't ask your permission to highlight you as an example before we jumped into the call. However, I'll ask forgiveness if that was not okay. I think it's great value for everyone that's on here that's doing events or is about to do events, just to keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So with that, I want to pass it to Leo, because Leo, I know you are bottom line for a big event that's happening this Friday in the Southern California area. So I want to pass it to you to be able to talk about that a little bit and what you've been doing that's worked so well to get you to where you're at. And please share with everyone how many are committed to attending already, because it's unbelievable.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate it. And Melody,
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
Yeah, before you do that, I'm looking at names on the call, and there may be people on this call that don't know who you are. So that was a horrible tee up of you. So for those of you that don't know Leo, if you look behind him, there's a lion behind him, and we call him Leo the Lion because he has the focus and tenacity of somebody that's committed to winning in the game of life and winning all the way around. And his organization exceeds 1,000 agents. He's penetrated the Southern California market at a really high level and building incredible, as a base from there. We always say start local, go global. And his organization is in Spain and Mexico, and he's building all around the world. He's an incredible leader. Okay, Leo, that was a proper introduction. Now back to you after I interrupted you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you for putting this together. And Rosie actually gifted me this, if you guys are wondering where I got this line from. Thank you, Rosie, for that. I truly appreciate it.
there's one thing I wanted to say about that image, because I think it's important for people to know. This goes to speak about you. The reason that this is a photo that I found in a little shop in a little town in Mexico when I was traveling, and I saw it, and it was like a little art store, but unfortunately you can't see the image very well. But what impacted me about this image, and is very similar or very relevant to Leo, is the eyes. You know, when you think about a lion, you think about the strength of a lion. But in this image, it's like the kindness and the careness. So he's a very strong and compassionate leader. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that, Leo. And I just, you know, fills my heart that you have it there in your Zoom. So go on, continue. Love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And yeah, thank you guys for creating this space. I'm always excited about showing up to these because every single week I learn something new, right? And we can learn something new at all times. But we have a huge event, you know, coming up, EXP Showcase. I'm actually going to drop the link here so you guys can go ahead and share this. This is in the West Coast, so Southern California. We're going to be doing it in Orange County. That's the Eventbrite link there, just in case you guys have anybody else that might be interested in participating. Right now, we currently have 696 registrations so far, 696. So I'm maxing it out at 800. I'm pretty sure we're going to be at 800 here in the next 24 hours. And it has, I mean, it's not an easy thing. This is probably like my biggest event that I've ever done. So it's not, I definitely don't want you guys to think, hey, this is all my events are going out like this. They're not, you know. And the things that I'm doing is I'm being very vocal on social media. I'm promoting it. I'm getting all my leaders also involved, because the thing that I did that I wanted to motivate everybody to push my event was I got my top people on the panel, right? Like to have some speaking time. So I wanted to tap into not only obviously the individuals that they lead and they inspire, but I also wanted them to get behind the event. So we've all done a collective effort to really promote it. And right now, everywhere that you look at, whether it's Instagram stories, whether it's Facebook, it's TikTok, I mean, they're everywhere. I'm looking and I'm scrolling, and a lot of people are promoting our event. So we're really just being extremely intentional, right? We're very, very close. We're on conversations every single day. Like, we're doing a huge push this week. I just had a collaborative meeting with all of my group yesterday, and I was just like, hey, let's just really push to get this thing sold out. I mean, we already have over 600 registrations, but I'm like, no, I want to get this thing sold out. Like, I want to have it, you know, like literally with the word sold out on it. So I've already imagined it. So I got Jose Simano. He's going to be talking about Zillow, all the online systems, everything that's going to help people, you know, become really successful with online systems. And then I also have an expert in the commercial space and foreclosures, Louis Chavez. He made over $2 million last year. So I, you know, brought him. He's going to be speaking on that subject. Then I have also Will Higgins, which is he has a marketing degree, and he's just excellent in social media, personal brand. So I have him speaking as well. We also have Zep Ziegler, which is the Vice President of Technology from EXP. He's also going to be coming down. And then obviously the headliner, Mr. Brent Goat, he's going to be doing a model explain at the end of the event. So that definitely helps. I mean, I think number one is just definitely getting the focus around bringing massive amounts of value, which Melody put together an excellent event. Obviously, everybody wants listings, right? Everybody wants listings. So that's just a huge thing that everybody was looking for. So when you're doing an event, just really focus on what does the market want, and, you know, do an event around that. And, you know, just get everybody to collaborate around it, push the event. And, you know, I'm using, you know, obviously invitations I'm doing the email campaign. So I'm sending it out to all the people that I've talked to in the past, like just inviting them. I'm also sending out an email today, just kind of reminding everybody, hey, get there early, you know, make sure you get good seats. You know, I'm doing another personalized video. So it's just those extra little commitments that I'm doing along the lines. But yeah, it's just everybody getting super excited about the event. So, but with your help, we can get it to 800, right? We're only like, 3 days away from this thing. So.
Yeah, so I want to highlight a couple of things that you said that might have gotten missed, and anchor what you did. So number one is you made a personal commitment around your vision for the event, which was 800. The second thing that you did was you got other people involved, that when other people have skin in the game and are part of it, then there's a greater collaboration that takes place and there's greater influence that happens. And then you've done what's called an active promotion, which is, oh, we didn't promote it 48 hours before the event happened. You started promoting it weeks ago and have been very vocal about that event and building to that event and duplicating that, right? So we talk about duplication for the people that are going to be part of that event and them doing the same thing, right? So a lot of times it's like the easiest thing, and I notice, you know, it can happen is like, oh, you know, there's an event happening. I'm just going to blast it out 2 days in advance, see who I can get to come. Or, you know, Casey and Rick are coming in on the rig. Yeah. We're going to have this event. That's great. Everybody that already knows them is part of our group. Of course, you know, a lot of them would like to go. And yeah, let's see if we can get someone to come with us. And, you know, so 2 or 3 days before, it's like, oh, you know, who wants to come? Versus like you have executed a very intentional strategy around having that vision, getting other people enrolled into the vision with you, and having a massive, over a period of days and weeks, not 48 hours, 3 days before the event, to execute at that level. The other thing is I want to talk about scarcity and abundance here, right? Scarcity could say, this is my market in Southern California. I want to dominate this market. And so we're going to, you know, keep this to ourselves in our back pocket, versus open it up to the entire market and other people that may be working in that market. And if you understand the laws of scarcity versus abundance, in a scarcity energy where there's not enough, or there's lack, or what if someone shows up at that event that I know that didn't come because of me, and now they're being prospected for that person's organization and I could have been in mine. If I didn't open it up to everyone, like those are conversations of scarcity and lack, and scarcity and lack creates small contracting organizations. Abundance is like understanding where EXP is going in the next year with or without any of us. How many of you, and you don't have to raise your hand, but I want you to ask yourself this question. How many of you feel like you missed the boat? Or you look at other people that came to EXP before you have, that have larger organizations, and go, oh, if only I had come 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, right? Melody, thank you for your honesty and raising your hand. That thought process is one of scarcity, because we are going to double, we're set to double in the next year. So EXP is a little over 75,000 agents now, and we are expected to grow by 75,000 agents in the next year. Do you realize what that means? It means it's going to happen with or without you or me. That's what's going to happen with the company, because there's people that have the vision and commitment to strike while the iron's hot and rearrange their lives to make it inconvenient to capture market share in this window of growth. Period. So for the brand new person that's not even with the company yet today, that has a hunger, that has a fire, that has a commitment, that's willing to execute and go do that, they can create literally more in the window of growth that will happen over the next 12 months than anything that's been created before now, because of the velocity of growth that's already happening within the company. When people were out pioneering EXP, Brent, Rick in the early days, right? And the conversations, oh, you know, have you heard of EXP? Nobody had heard of EXP. Nobody knew about EXP. It was a completely unknown concept. Nobody was talking about it. Nobody's in it. Like, what it took to get growth and momentum when nobody knows about anything. Well, that's why they call it pioneering the market. It's the most challenging time, is to get the dang thing off the ground. Now people know about EXP. So what does that mean? It means that the first mover advantage that you have when nobody knows about something is gone, right? Because you're probably not going to be someone's first conversation about EXP, although there's many, many markets in the United States and globally where you could be someone's first conversation about EXP. And so that's very much still a possibility. However, when nobody knows about something and you have first mover advantage and you're the first person ever having a conversation with them, that's one thing if they catch the vision. But if there's multiple people that have had conversations or they know about EXP from other places, what does that mean? That means that now it's who's got the skills and who's going to be the person that actually enrolls that person to joining EXP. I was on a 3-way call yesterday with someone who she's like, oh yeah, I've been hearing about EXP for 5 years from different people. And we're on a call, right? She's talked to multiple people over the last 5 years about EXP. Well, it's like, okay, well, why now and why this conversation? And it was specifically because of the experience that she was having with the person that had put her on that 3-way call. And most importantly, she was looking at wanting a change in her business from feeling like, man, I'm building this thing and I have a sales team, but I feel very alone in doing this, to wanting to work together in collaboration and wanting to bring in the leverage that's available with EXP to create the liberty that she currently does not have from her business, right? So it's a timing thing and it's also a relationship thing. And I think, you know, Leo, I want to acknowledge you for having an abundance mindset, bottom lining an event, enrolling people into that vision with you, having it be open to anyone that's in EXP in that market, because it's like when we do that, it's creating from abundance for sure. Some of you may have heard this story before. However, there's many that are newer on the call. And it is a true story of a girl that was like the most amazing soccer goalie ever. And she, before one of the games, her mom witnessed her with the girl on the opposing team that was the goalie, teaching her like game-winning kick, the one that like nobody could beat, right? And her mom, coming from scarcity and competition, is like, you know, what are you doing? That's your opponent. You're teaching her your kick. Like, you know, you're giving your secrets away. What are you doing? And the girl, who was too young to be tainted by scarcity, because she's 11 years old, she's like, Mom, if I teach her my kick and she gets really good at it, that means I'm going to have to be better to still win. And so where scarcity may jump in and we want to be small and we want to protect our market or our perceived market of what we're wanting to build, nothing big happens in a scarcity mentality. The only way it's possible to build something massive is to do it from an abundance mentality, which requires leveling up in the skills and the actual commitment and the execution and being willing to be in the game in an entirely different way. Melody, I saw you had your hand up. You're on mute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to say that in addition to making a personal commitment, getting others involved, and having active promotion, another key thing that he said was that he's been envisioning his event successful and sold out since the day he started this. So that's a big part. I think it's the same as getting a listing or anything else we do that we succeed at in this business. So I commend him for that.
Yeah. It's that's so important, right? It's the mind, it's the health of the mindset, the health of the mentality, right? So Leo made a decision before the event ever became an event, and the only thing that he's seeing is that perfect positive end result, the outcome, and how he gets there. The how doesn't matter, and that's what so many people get hung up on. Well, how do I do this? Well, how am I going to do that? Well, how am I going to create an event that large? How? And that, again, is not how to create at that level. How to create at that level is getting your mind really clear and then aligning everything energetically within you and around you to create those outcomes. Leo, do you want to talk about the link that you just posted in the chat?
Yeah, for sure. Because we're talking about like kind of speaking it into existence and manifesting it and being able to visualize it and see it. I just dropped in the link of Cybernetics. This is a classic in the personal development space. A lot of the personal development books have actually been based on this book. And the guy it wasn't even personal development. He was a surgeon, right? So he would basically make people beautiful. And he determined that, you know, when people would go get surgeries, and some people came in with a scar, or, you know, some sort of disfigurement in their face, and then he would make their faces beautiful. He started to audit every single person he did surgeries for. And, you know, obviously if he makes them beautiful and they walk out looking beautiful, he expected them to feel beautiful. And a lot of them didn't. So he basically started to, you know, interview these guys and started to figure out, like, why is it that they didn't feel beautiful? And he came up with the self-image, right? It's the self-image of what they would see, even though the scar was gone from their face. When they still looked at themselves in the mirror, they still felt like they had the scar, and they were walking around with that intentionality, with that, you know, in mind. So I just dropped it in there because it's basically what we're talking about right now: visualizing and imagining, and really, if you want to upgrade your life, you have to upgrade your self-image of how you see yourself. And it really gets started around being all of these amazing people like Casey, Rosie, Brent, you know, Gene, Rick, all of these guys and gals that have already done it, because they give you references of, you know, what we could be like. That's kind of like what I did when I saw Brent and I heard Brent for the first time. I liked his energy. I liked what he was about. And even when I had 3 agents on my team, you know, 3 years ago, I said, you know what, I'm going to match that guy's energy. I'm going to do what he does. And, you know, the results don't need to show up for me to act and be just like he is. So I would recommend that book. Definitely read that. It's a classic. I read it 15 years ago and I thought I had it. And I'm reading it now, and I'm like just in awe with the stuff that I'm learning again, right? And I'm reading it for the second time in my life. So just wanted to share that.
Hi, Casey. It's Damiano. Can I chime in on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Awesome. There's a YouTube video. I'll look for it. But there's also these women that this FBI drawer was drawing these women, right? And the women were behind the FBI forensic drawer. And when the women were describing themselves to the drawer, he would draw them, and they would have the best friend come and describe the woman. And it was a totally different picture from how the woman described herself from the way her best friend described her. And when you looked at the 2 pictures in the end, the best friend described the drawer more accurately than the woman described herself. So the self-image of how we see ourselves is sometimes a little bit less than, and that's what Leo's talking about in the book, Cybernetics. And just wanted to, you know, reiterate there that that's a great video, that's a great book. And so it is so important how we see ourselves as enough, as whole, as complete. And so
We lost you. Thank you for that, Damiano. And here's what I want to kind of cap that off with is I want you to think about everything that those guys just shared, and then think about this. Are there people in your environment that are cutting you down? Are there people in your environment that don't support your vision? Are there people in your environment that are critical of you in some way? Are there people in your environment that when you get focused on what you know is good for you, all of a sudden have some kind of trauma or emergency that requires they get your attention? And so now think about that when you're going out building an organization and you have people, maybe there's somebody that you've been talking to and you drop the ball on follow-up and they end up joining EXP with someone that's not you. How long do you sit in the corner to take to recover? A day, a week, a month, 6 months? Or are you moving forward and still talking about it, right? So, you know, Leo reading the book is great, but Leo's not creating the results he's creating from reading the book. Leo's creating those results with a rigorous commitment to getting his mind right and keeping his mind in a certain space or state, regardless of what's going on. Not that he's not going to be surrounded by people that are negative or negative situations or people that are criticizing him or people that don't know him that may go, oh, Leo, of course, look at you. You like, you know, you're so successful. Of course you would be, but I can't be. Like all the excuses that people come up with when they look at someone that's created something, not realizing that the only reason those things have been created is because people who have created things at that level have been willing to walk through a fire and be rigorous with their mind and their heart And when they're exposed to those things, double down and do the work on themselves to keep their mind protected, to keep their heart protected, to keep moving forward, right? So environments, we're all going to have things that come into our environments that take us away from being the best that we can be, or that could possibly sway us or impact us negatively to do that. And so to overcome that, it's being even more rigorous in those principles for success on self-image, on how we regulate our minds and our attitudes and our energies and the decisions that we make, the stories that we tell ourselves, right? I was talking to someone about this whole deal with, Will Smith and the slap at the Grammys. And I have seen so many people talking about this on social media and so many opinions and perspectives. Well, he wasn't defending his family. He was defending his family. He didn't exercise self-control. He was exercising self-control because he didn't knock him out. I mean, there's like a million different things that people have said as their truth as they look at this situation from someone on the outside, like their perspective is fact. Well, he did this, so that's what that means. And this, when we're building an organization and growing and building something, like, you control the narrative on any experience that you're having. And so one of the key things, and this is, without saying it, one of the things that I know Leo does, that I know Rosie does, that I know many of you that are on this call do, is an event happens and maybe you're having an experience of it that's negative or that's discouraging or that's overwhelming. And the faster that skill set is of taking that and going, great, what's the story I can write around that? What's a perspective that I can shift on that to empower me to move forward, to get me re-energized, regardless of what's happening with this other person, right? And that is the skill set of how you go in and are constantly modifying and enhancing that self-image that then is what you take to the world for everyone else. Because your 3 o'clock appointment has no idea at what happened at your 1 o'clock appointment. Your 1 o'clock appointment has no idea what happened before you left the house with your significant other or with your kids. But guess what? If you didn't set yourself up for success and get your mind right and get your energy right before you go out into that day, they're going to feel what happened with your significant other and your kids. They're going to feel what happened on the appointment before them. And it's going to impact how you attract and how you create. And so taking personal responsibility for, I'm the person that's responsible for my own narrative inside. And what is the narrative for me to create moment by moment, day by day, that's going to support me in creating what I want to create as a whole. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, questions on this topic before we move into the 2 pieces of agenda items that I saw in the chat?
You have a quick thought. Can you hear me, Casey?
Yeah, we can hear you.
This is Tom Costello. I love everything that you're saying, and it's so true. One of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins is the most powerful need in the human psyche is to stay consistent with how we define ourselves, which is what everything that we're talking about, self-image, self-esteem, as Damiano said, how we describe ourselves with the visual drawer. I just realized how much when something happens and someone joins another organization after you've talked to them and not followed up, or whatever the situation is, the story that you tell yourself about that, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that, oh, I'm this and the other. Well, maybe you need to get better. Maybe it was just timing. Maybe it was just a better fit. Doesn't matter. It's already done. I'm listening to Darren Daly this morning, and he described the difference between blame and responsibility. Blame is when you blame everything else and even what on yourself for the things that you didn't do. Responsibility is deciding, well, from this point on, I'm going to learn and I'm going to make a difference. So rather than just sitting there whining and looking at my own navel, I've just made a decision to make things better and to change and to decide to get better while I'm doing it. And I've gotten good results from it that I need to share with Rick, because I've got some follow-up calls that I need for him to do. One is the guy that I talked to who was Brent's former coach, who says that he needs 6 figures signing bonus from EXP to join. And I thought, well, does EXP look like we need to do that? Anyway, I digress.
Entitlement is one of my least favorite things on the planet. Thanks for sharing, Tom.
Sure.
Melody.
I just wanted to add something that you said on a previous call in case others weren't on there that's made a big difference in my life. And that is that we tell ourselves stories all day long in our mind. I'm not good enough. I'm ugly. I'm fat. I'm not going to get the listing, whatever. We tell ourselves stories. And Casey said, why would we tell ourselves any story that does not benefit us or does not uplift us? And so once you really think about that, I mean, I find myself thousands of times a day just stopping the thought in the middle and going, that's make believe. I just made that up. I'm going in a positive direction. And that's just made a huge difference in my life. Just that one sentence that you said, Casey.
I love that. I love that. And that's how you go from 35 to 72 in 48 hours.
I wanted you to know that I didn't start promoting it 72 hours in advance. It's just, I mean, I started weeks and weeks in advance. It's strange how people wouldn't commit to till the last minute, but I'm going to learn from others on this call how to get them to commit earlier. I have 1 million pages of notes up here on my computer.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So Melody, while you're on, you put something in the agenda item, conversion when attracting. Can you say a little bit more about what specifically you're talking about there?
Well, you asked us to put down our goals, and that's one of my goals. There's a lot of people that come to me, so they must be attracted to me or they wouldn't be coming to me, but I have a hard time converting them. And sometimes it's even hard to get them on a 3-way call, even though I use the scripts and I speak to them, sincerely, and I tell them everything that I can do for them and what the company can do for them. And actually, I don't say that much about that because I want to have an expert like you say that part, but I just need to figure out how to get my conversion with these people that are coming to me because I know they must be ready for a change, or why would they be asking me questions?
Yeah, so I know we have some people that are on this call that have definitely developed a conversion skill set in this context of growing and building an organization. I'd like to open it up for anyone that would like to share. I've got something to say about it. However, I'd like to hear from other people that may have already have some value that they could share as well from your perspective and experience.
Casey, this was about conversion, right? Conversion. Yeah. And yeah, so what I would say is that the good thing is that people are coming to you, so that's awesome, right? The second thing is that when they come to you, you have to get excellent at answering questions without answering any questions at all. So you gotta, they're gonna drill you with, hey, well, what's up? Tell me about this, tell me about that, tell me about this. And one of the things that I did in the beginning was basically tell them like why EXP is such an amazing thing. And what people are looking for and listening for are kind of reasons to tell or to justify their insecurities of why they can't do it. So what I would say is try not to say as much in the initial meetings, just create curiosity, dive deep into them and what's most important to them, where they want to go, and then share the model with them, allow that to happen, and then do the 3-way calls with Casey and everyone else in the organization. Because again, if they're thinking in their brain that they now have to take on listings and they have to take on buyers and they have to do all these things, and now they have to be a superstar like Melody and memorize this whole presentation, or now they have to memorize all these bullet points about the company. And then so the duplication is the most important thing, I think, at EXP, right? So it's about, I would say, getting them exposed to other leadership as quickly as possible.
Right.
So I think that's been one of the things that I've learned, right? Like I try to do all the heavy lifting on my own, coming from a mindset of, as an independent contractor, we're kind of like lone rangers in a way. Coming to EXP, I had to rewire my mind to think community and to think, this is not going to happen without my community. And that's where, I would get in the beginning, I had a really hard time just trying to do everything on my own. And I have a ton of energy, but again, I was giving the perception to the other person on the other side, like, damn, I got to do that. I got to memorize that. I got to have all this energy. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
Awesome. Thank you. I typed all of that.
Rick had a 3-way call yesterday, and just to share something that's working in that context is He's like, I'm waiting for a text message of when to get on the call. And I was like, well, don't you have it booked at like 12:30 or 1 o'clock, like whatever the time was, right? And he's like, no. What their person that they're working with in their organization is having them do, it was somewhere deep in our deeper layers of our organization, is they're having them be on the model explained with the person and then text who's the third party validation call to jump on 5 minutes before the model explained is over, or in those last few minutes to be part of that conversation when they come off it after they've watched it together. And so that when you have a system in place, when you're systematizing the exposure process, then you don't have to get someone on a 3-way call. Like if you're getting the time with them to go through the model explained together, it's much easier to grab somebody from the organization to be on and jump on at the end to be like, oh, so great to meet you. Wanted to jump on and make myself available for any questions that came up. But outside of that, what was most interesting to you out of what you just saw? And they're now, you've taken so much of the work out of what could otherwise be a process of getting people to a certain spot. And you've also saved yourself from being the presenter and let the tools do the actual heavy lifting of presenting to somebody who's open to learning. I know we've got some other great converters on the call. Would love to hear from you around your conversion value tips that you'd like to share. Come off mute, Erica.
Okay. I think probably the biggest thing is just asking questions, right? Like, so, I mean, I was a team leader for an OP for 15 years. And I think in the beginning, it was kind of the same thing with a lot of people like with EXP, like I got to know it all and I got to puke this on them. That's the last thing you want to do, is just be like, this is all that EXP has to offer. It's amazing. It's got this and this. But you may be totally missing what they're actually needing, and they've shut you off because they're not hearing what they're looking for. So much of it is about when you're in a recruiting stage. I always say it's a connection phase, right? Like it's about building a relationship with these people. And it's all about asking questions and digging deeper and understanding. I mean, half the time when people would join me at KW, it wasn't, I never even talked about KW ever.
Right.
Like it was about just, they connected with me knowing that I had their back and that I had their best interest, and I could show them some tips and tricks on how we could get them to where they wanted to go and how this was the model that would get them where they wanted to go. So it's kind of the same when I looked at the EXP model. It was there's so much value here that if you puke it on them though, it's too much. It's too much. And even the model explained sometimes feels like everyone's like, whoa, I'm like, okay, let's pick this apart. So sometimes for me, it's even just sitting down and talking to them about where are you, where do you want to go? Tell me about what's important to you about that. Because sometimes they go, well, I want to make 100,000. I want to make 500,000. Well, why? Talk to me about why. Because they don't even know why 90% of the time. So it's the short answer on that is ask a ton of questions, always be in curiosity mode. And then if you can peel in some pieces of EXP and go, cool, well, there's this really cool thing I could show you at some point, and we've got that too. Is there anything else that's important to you about where you're working or what you see for your future? Those kind of questions. So just question.
Awesome. Thank you.
Questions are the answers. Okay, so there's one piece that just came up, and my intuition says share it, so I'm going to share it. I was on a 3-way call the end of last week with somebody who was like, hey, I have this person and they want to build an organization within EXP and they're not having success, and and they're talking to people and they're getting no's, which to me is an indication that they're in presentation, not invitation. And they're vomiting EXP versus enrolling someone or engaging someone in a conversation about them. However, we got on the phone, and here's why it's so important. I call it inspecting what you expect. So the person that's in our group is a seasoned agent, and it's Jesse Zagorski, actually. And so many of you know him, and he's like, hey, I've got this 3-way call with this guy, and he's kind of stuck, but he wants to build an organization. And I'm like, great, how many people has he actually spoken to? And he's like, 5. I'm like, okay, so let's get on the phone with him and see what's going on and how we can dissect and break through wherever the stuck piece is. Well, as it turned out, digging a little bit deeper to understand, the person was on a letter of intent. and had not yet moved their license to EXP and was out talking to other agents about EXP. So we have what was called a structural integrity breakdown. I'm like, dude, you're not at EXP. And you're telling other people about EXP. That's like inviting to an event, right? Oh, you're going to go to this event? Well, if I get people to go to the event with me, then I'll go to the event. Like, that's how some people look at going to events. If I have someone with me, then I'll go, versus no, I'm going, I've committed, I booked my flight, I've got my tickets. And now, because I'm committed, I can invite, and I'm energetically aligned, or I have the structural integrity in place to energetically bring people with me, right? So it was nothing about what he was saying. It was this underlining misalignment in the structural integrity. It wasn't there because he was on an LOI and he wasn't pulling the trigger to move his license. And it's like, okay, well, why haven't you pulled the trigger to move your license yet? Well, because I wanted to have 5 or 10 people join me at EXP before I do that. Okay, interesting. So now that we know that that's not going to happen, now why have you not pulled the trigger and moved your license yet? Well, it turns out it's the relationship with the broker, and not knowing how to navigate that conversation and feeling uncomfortable about it, and wanting to have proving some success that EXP worked before pulling the trigger to like officially make that move, right? So when Jesse put me on the phone with the guy, like, Jesse's perspective, having worked with him, was that he was just having a challenge in what was the breakdown in his conversations and inviting people. But as we got to the end of that conversation, it was like we got to very clearly see what was, right? So and this goes into the conversion conversation. The conversion conversation, the principles of conversion are meeting someone where they're at and staying one step ahead of them to give them something to step into. So Melody, why I'm using this as an example is because we had to get really clear on where his point A was, which was not fully recruited to EXP. That was his true point A. And then we had to get really clear on why not, right? So what was the why not? What were those things that were in the way? So we systematically went through a conversation of what that conversation was going to look like. And he's like, oh, this is so easy, right? Now we got the conversation with the broker clear on what that was going to look like. And then it was, okay, well, now I got to decide a date. However, I'm going away for a few days. And it's like, no. You decide the date before you go so that you can enjoy your vacation. You decide now, you draw a line in the sand now, you pull the Band-Aid off now. What's the date? And then you go on vacation and have a great time. And then you come back and execute phase 2 of your process, which is going to be getting your license moved over. We're going to talk again to get your story dialed in so that you have your go-to-market story that includes other people wanting to come with you, right? So in that conversion process, a lot of the times we want to convert prematurely, and the desire to want to convert prematurely can become something that happens more and more the longer we're with EXP and we're receiving and understanding the value of being with EXP. So what I mean by that is, and I don't know if some of you on the call are like this, however, it's like, once I am like 1,000% in on something, I cannot believe why the rest of the world is not 1,000% in. Like, hello, I'm seeing this so clearly. How is this not crystal clear for you? Like, we just had a conversation about it. I showed it to you. Like, how did you not make this move yesterday? It's so clear, right? And so we're wanting to convert based on our clarity of where we're at in the organization and with the company. And when someone else actually converts, it's always going to be based on their process. So from a principle standpoint around conversion, we got some great tips from Erica, which is questions. From Leo, it is utilizing the tools and resources and building as a community, not as a solo person, and being of service to exactly what that person needs. And the principles that overarch both of those things are finding out exactly where someone's at, understanding what the gap is to where they want to go, and keeping that one step ahead of them, right? So I told the guy, I said, I don't want you talking to anybody else about EXP until you've decided your date. And then I still don't want you talking to anybody about EXP until you're 24 to 48 hours out from moving your license. because that is going to be that window of time that we capitalize on to reach out to people. That's like, hey, I wanted you to hear it from me and not from someone else or from social media, right? So like we gave him the next step, like, okay, by when are you going to have your date decided? And he's like, I'll have it decided by the end of the day. Okay, great. Then go on vacation. Your next step is now we're going to have that date decided and we're going to work backwards, right? So whatever that is, and just taking them into the next step. No, you don't get to talk to anybody yet. Don't screw it up before you get here, right? So being really clear about where someone's at. Yes, if they want to be 5 steps ahead, that's fine. However, I think of it like climbing the rungs on the ladder. You've got to go, whether your foot hits the rung or you're skipping rungs as you go up, you've still got to go through that, right? And so a lot of times what people want to jump to the end, which is the conversion piece of it, but the rungs on the ladder haven't been hit for that individual, which is why there then becomes a challenge converting. And then there's a challenge on getting them on a 3-way call. And then everything becomes a challenge because we're too far out of where that person actually is and keeping that line tight kind of in that process. Great question. Really great question. Any other comments, thoughts, things that would like to be contributed? I know Rosie's great at conversion too. Not sure if she's still on. I don't see her face.
Hey, Casey, I have one more thing to say, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, one of the gentlemen that just moved over, Louis Chavez, I don't think he's on the call, but I met him May 20th of 2020, right? So it's almost been 2 years since I was introduced to him at a barbecue. So it's all timing, right? And some people are going to come immediately. Some people are going to take 2 years. So my advice is number one, don't give up on people, right? Don't give up on them. And then also for him, towards the end, he was being courted by 2 other agencies. He was with the regional directors. I mean, everybody was after this guy. And he kept telling everybody what he wanted, which was space. He wanted some space. He wanted some space. And basically, I listened to what he was saying. And he was telling that to everybody. And the other recruiters at other companies were telling him, hey, we're going to help you to grow your business. And this is going to happen. And the guy's making over $2 million a year. He doesn't need help with production. Right. So basically what I did is I listened to what he said. We were able to create some space for him. He's here now. And, it's just really being intentional about listening to what they're asking for and trying to figure out a way to get them that. Don't give up on people, timing, and then also don't take anything for granted, and up until they move and also moving forward. Don't take anything for granted, right? Because somebody's going to say off of a conversation, maybe they get off with Casey and they're like, oh my God, yes, I'm going to sign up today, right? Well, if they're not pulling the trigger and actually filling out the application, they're not committed, right? So don't make the mistake of assuming that somebody has made a commitment without them actually committing. Unless they have had the application signed, that person has not committed to you, right? Or committed to the company. So don't give up on that little process, because as soon as he told me, or every other prospect has told me, yeah, I'm ready to move, I am intentional, being side by side every single day, texting them, calling them, in dialogue, and making sure that they're getting the application done. And then once they get it done, obviously, then, I'm still intentional about in the first 90 days that they're getting everything that they expected, right? Because that's the other part, right? Like, you got one part to getting them there. The other part is actually delivering. And what I meant for space, he needed an office space. He needed a location, because he has a pretty big team. He does training. So we were able to get him that. And, that was kind of like the cherry on top for him. So just be, extremely intentional about listening to what they're asking for. And that's just one case. So one guy that I just, Ismail, he's been with me for a whole year now. It took them 2.5 years for him to move over as well. And I was just checking in on him every once in a while. I'm like, hey, what's up, bro? How's everything going? And, every single time it was like, yeah, I'm good. And this one time, November, it was like, hey, I'm ready to make the move. What are the fees? What does it take to sign up? And he moved over a team of 10. So that don't give up on people and timing.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Leo. We have one other question that I'm going to cover in the next 60 seconds in the comments, and that was onboarding processes. That was from Shirley on empirebuilders.pro on EXP onboarding. If you click on that, It's going to take step by step the individual through the onboarding process. That's where they actually would sign up. And then the onboarding checklist, getting started, everything is in live links. So whether you are facilitating that process with someone or you hire someone to facilitate that process for you, if you're going to be somebody that's a builder and bringing on a lot of people and want to leverage that position out as a paid position, the process stays the same. And so I definitely encourage people to plug into those resources to just keep it really simple. Like, we complete this step before we move to the next one and be with that person in that process. All right. I think that covers everything that we had for agenda items that people put in today. Thank you all for being here. We've got the recording, and the recording we will post on Empire Builders Pro Facebook group for any of you that want to go back to it. Leo, we're looking forward to seeing you Friday at that event in Southern California. And thank you for all who shared and participated in the collaboration today and sharing tips and your experience and your perspective and adding to the value of our community. So we appreciate each and every one of you. Love being in business together with you and life. And upward and onward as we double, as the company doubles over the course of the next year. Get really clear on what you want your percentage of market share to be within the company as that inevitability happens, and then have a plan in place that's congruent with that, and an action plan that you're going to execute to that with the confidence and certainty, and doing that mental work and continuing to do that internal mental work that's part of the keys of long-term success. All right, everyone, make it a great rest of your day.